Why would you want to be a guinea pig? Hello, Nation. Today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of being a research subject. Now, many pharmaceutical and device companies develop new drugs and devices, and they want to get them on the market to make money and to help us folks with diabetes. But they have to conduct several series of studies to prove their safety and efficacy. Now, a typical study for type 2 diabetes might be a new oral medication versus a placebo or fake pill or a competitor medication, and they give it to a large number of people, and they follow things such as the A1C, the weight, the risk of hypoglycemia, and any other potential side effects. Many of these studies are double-blinded. I mention that because you'll hear that phrase a lot if you're interested in finding out more about being a research subject, and that just means that the investigator at the clinical research site and the patient, you or me, does not know what pill you're on, the fake pill or competitor versus the new medication. And that eliminates a lot of potential bias, makes the data much more valuable. Now, if you're doing a study for type 1 diabetes, let's just say you're testing out a new type of insulin. Typically you're not going to get a placebo insulin because that would be bad, but you might test an older insulin versus a newer in a protocol where you're randomized to one group or the other. And once again, they look at the improvements of potentially this new insulin versus the old one. Now, there are 4 phases of studies, and I think it's important to go over them. Phase 1 is very early. You're not typically recruited for this type of study. This is when a new drug or device is just being tested in a small number of people for safety primarily and a little bit efficacy. Phase 2, the studies are larger and they're reconfirming if this drug or device really is better than what's out there on the market and if the safety is still there. Phase 3 are the big clinical trials. They recruit hundreds to thousands of patients in clinical research sites, not only in the United States, but commonly international sites as well. Then they collect lots of data from all these sites, they put them together, they analyze them, they present them to the FDA, and then the FDA goes through the review process. And if it's safe and effective, they will approve it. And the companies can market it to folks with diabetes, for example. Now, phase 4 studies are also very common. These are studies where the drug is already approved, but they're looking for other indications, other uses for an approved drug. And those are good studies as well. Just to let you know, it takes 10 to 12 years from start to finish to develop a new drug. And on average, over $1.2 billion. So these companies invest a lot of time and effort. They lose a lot of drugs along the way due to safety or efficacy issues. So it's sort of like starting restaurants, 1 out of 10 make it. So it's very expensive. The system is kind of inefficient at the FDA, but they're trying to improve things. And so you have to remember, these drugs are scrutinized for efficacy and safety. If you get involved in a clinical study, there will be the Human Subjects Committee and the Patient Bill of Rights. That is an independent body that looks at the safety of the study and gives approval for a research site like the one I work at UCSD in the VA to do the study, as long as it's safe and effective. Now, what's in it for you? First of all, in a very altruistic sense, you're advancing the knowledge of diabetes, whether you're talking about a pill or a new insulin or a new device. That's altruistic. Now, what about some real benefits if you're more self-centered? You get free visits by a diabetes specialist. Typically, you'll get a whole history and physical exam. You'll get a battery set of laboratory tests, your A1C, your chemistry panel, your lipids, your complete blood count. And you'll be able to interact with pretty smart people that are very knowledgeable about diabetes. Most studies give you a stipend or honorarium that pays for gas and your time. It's not much. It can be more, it can be less, but it's helpful, especially with gas prices as they are. And you may improve your diabetes. Now, what's some of the negative side? What if you get randomized to the placebo group, the fake pill, and your diabetes gets out of control? Typically, they won't design studies like that, but if that happens, there's the patient bill of rights, as I mentioned earlier, you can pull out at any time. Many protocols have a rescue part of their protocol, where if your blood sugar gets too high, they put you on the active medication, or they allow you to exit the study. And so there are safety concerns that are addressed during most clinical trials. Now, the other thing is, what about the length of the study? It's your time. You know, some studies are 5 to 6 years long. Some are 6 months. And so that's the most important thing. You have to read about the studies. You have to get knowledgeable about them. You have to ask questions, and you should show them to your healthcare provider if he or she wants to evaluate them for you. So remember, it's not guinea pig research anymore. So long, nation.